So it is currently the 13th of February, and just a couple of days ago I have received this big box from XMG where inside I should have one of their Core 17 laptops featuring the RTX 3060 max speed GPU with 115 watts plus 15 watts of dynamic boost, bringing it to 130 watts, and the RYZEN 5800H. And I'm really excited to test this one out for you guys, but I thought first I would do a quick unboxing and give you my first impressions. But there are a few other things which I would like to point out before we're going to do that. First of which being that XMG were kind enough to lend me this laptop, so they are not allowing me to keep this one after I'm done with the whole unboxing, first impressions, review, or any kind of other videos which I will be doing. And this also means that this is not a sponsored video, so no money has exchanged hands, neither from my side or from their side. But there are a few things which you should note, meaning that this laptop is still an early sample, so it's not quite ready for mass production just yet. And if you have any questions with regards to that, I'm going to try to get someone from XMG in the comment section down below to tell you more about that availability and whatever else that you might be interested in. And obviously there other things to consider, but right now I would just like to point out yet again that this one is only going to be an unboxing and a first impression video, so not a final review. You guys are going to have to wait for that. But if there are any things which you guys would like to see in the review, then I really recommend you leave a comment telling me more about that in the comment section down below. And presumably you are going to notice that I'm not a professional unboxer or unboxing guy, whatever you want to call people who do professional unboxing videos like Short Circuit and the other guy which I will not be naming in this video. So I'm going to try to do some kind of b-roll after I'm going to be done unboxing this video, unboxing this laptop and showing you guys what I think of it as, you know, the first impressions, because that's kind of how these videos work, right? So you have already seen that inside of the box you're going to get this laptop in a carrying pouch, and that is really nice. And I'm going to set this one aside for a moment and see what else we're getting inside of the box. And right here you can see that we have two other boxes, and I'm going to see, so yeah, right here we're obviously getting the charger, because otherwise I wouldn't have really been able to use this laptop, I suppose. So here we have the power brick. The exact specifications for that are probably going to be in the video description. And there's also the warranty card, which currently is in German, but I suppose there's also an English version of that as well. And this is just the cable with which you're going to be able to connect the power brick to your laptop. Inside of here, oh, great stickers from AMD. So I don't know if there's one from NVIDIA as well, but hey, if you just want to put more stickers on that, then probably just go to dbrand. Other than that, I don't see anything else. So we just have an empty box right now. So probably let's look at the laptop, and I'm really sorry for the audio in this video if you guys are going to hear any kind of cracks, loudness, and whatever, but that's what it is. Not a professional unboxer, right? Just starting right out here. So right out of the gate, you can see that XMG decided to go with a stealthier approach and a stealthier design, obviously, which is something I can really appreciate, because this means that right after we're going to be done with the whole human malware pandemic and you're going to be able to go back to school, university, or work, or anywhere else, you're going to be able to take this bad boy and not get questions like, why did you bring your spaceship with you? And that's really nice, because trust me, I did get that question before. Now you can see that this one has a massive 17-inch screen, and you're also getting this nice microfiber cloth, which is really appreciated, because I suppose due to its design, you're going to see that this laptop is going to attract a lot of fingerprints. I can already see that there are a few of them right here, but something you should have a look at is probably the screen flex, because nobody really likes to have a dangly screen, and I guess that goes the same way for the keyboard flex, I'm going to try to do it like this, but you're most probably going to enjoy the B-roll that I'm going to be showing you more than what I'm doing right now. Honestly, looking at the screen, it's pretty massive. Like seeing it kind of reminds me of my 34-inch that I have behind me, but that obviously is going to take a while to adjust myself to. I would also like to show you guys what kind of ports we're getting on this laptop. So you can already see that we're getting two USB 3 ports right here and an SD card reader. We're also getting some ports on the back, which is really nice to see. And that also obviously includes the Type-C connector, HDMI connector, Ethernet, and also the barrel plug for your charger. Looking on the other side, you're going to see that right here we're getting only one USB connector, which is probably 2.0, and two 3.5 connectors for your headphones and microphone. And that's pretty much it for the port selection. Obviously, I really think that that's more than enough, and obviously a lot more than you could get on some laptops from some companies which don't make PCs, obviously. Some other things to consider are obviously also the exhaust. So you have two at the back. You have this on the bottom, which is really nice to see. And we're also getting some exhausts on the left and right side. So really cool to see that from XMG already. Obviously, we're dealing with an RTX 3060 Max P at 130 watts if you are using dynamic boost, and the RYZEN 5800H. And both of these can be customized, should I say. Oh, and there's a Kensington lock, which I didn't see when I first looked at this laptop right here. So also a really nice thing to see. Now, in terms of, I'm probably gonna have to do this, but this is not a fair thing to, yeah, kinda. I mean, you can open it with one hand, so theoretically it's going to work. It really depends. If you're going to be somewhat stronger than me, then you're probably going to be able to do that, and it's not really a difficult thing, especially if you're trying to do so many things at the same time. Now, looking at the screen, you're going to be able to see that right above it, you're also going to get a webcam. So this is a really nice thing to have on a laptop, because not all of them have them. I'm looking at you, Asus, and probably some other brands as well. And some other laptops obviously have a webcam integrated right into the keyboard, and that's not always the greatest thing, because that's what we would call a nose webcam. I'm going to have to test all of that to see how it's going to perform, but straight away, looking at this laptop, I'm really impressed with what we're seeing with the chassis, with the all metal design. The trackpad could probably have been a little bit bigger and probably centered, because this doesn't look centered to me. I don't know if you guys can probably tell, but I guess that's something we're going to have to deal with. There are already some buttons right here, which I guess one is going to be, yes, so one of them is going to be to turn the laptop on, and the second one is going to be to get the turbo mode enabled. But obviously we're going to check that out in the first impression part of this video, because I have not turned it on yet. So I'm going to have to do that, and I'm going to obviously give you guys my first impressions on that. And for the review, you are going to have to wait a little bit longer, but definitely let me know what you guys would like to see. So right now I'm gonna head over to my desk and start this laptop and see what this can do. See you in a bit. Okay, so a bit of a change of scenery here, and that's because quite a few days have passed since I first unboxed this laptop, but now you can also get an idea of how the webcam looks like, how the microphone sounds like, and now I'm also going to start typing on the keyboard. And from the testing that I've done, I didn't really think that it was able to pick whenever I was typing on the keys. I'm also going to be turning fan boost on, just to give an idea of how loud things are going to get whenever you're going to be doing something else that is going to require it in the background. So I think that the webcam quality is not anything that is going to blow you out of the water, but obviously it's going to be fine, assuming that you're going to have some proper lighting in your room for all of your Teams calls, Zoom calls, and everything else. But obviously, if you're going to want to be the next Twitch streamer, I suppose that your guys are going to need a better webcam like I have over there, and also a good pair of headphones with a microphone or a standalone one. So let me know what you think in the comments. I also forgot to tell you guys that this laptop will come with a USB flash drive where you'll find all of your necessary drivers to get yourself ready and going with this laptop, but make sure that they're the latest ones because in my case they weren't. So my recommendation here would be to go on the internet and double check with the official software vendors before you're going to be using whatever is packed on the USB flash drive. But since I had a few days to play with the laptop, there are a few things to point out in a more general sense. And the first one is going to be that there is a mux switch, which is going to come in handy for all intents and purposes. The HDMI port is 2.1, so you'll be able to get 120 Hz on your TV if you are going to have a TV that is going to support it, or a monitor that will be able to do that, of course. The Type-C connector also connects directly to the GPU, so you can use it for VR, which is definitely appreciated. And the same can be said about the Ethernet port, which is 2.5 gigabit, but given that I live in Germany, I will never see those speeds right here, but that's besides the point. On board, you also have Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5, so that's definitely something appreciated. I also tried getting this laptop around, but at 2.5 kilograms, I think that this battle station is going to be more stationary. The included 180 watts charger is also 590 grams, so definitely consider getting yourself either a good backpack or getting swole by the time you're going to start carrying it around to events and all of these other things after the whole human malware pandemic is over, of course. Now, I have also tried getting myself used to the keyboard, but it still felt a little bit cramped even after a few hours of using it, and that might just be due to the fact that I've gotten myself so much used to my 10 keyless keyboard rather than this one, which also doesn't have mechanical switches, but I have to admit that the membrane keys overall felt fine given that the travel was just okay. But if you guys are not used to a QWERTZ layout, then do note that your brain is going to make it a little bit trickier and you're going to have to change your muscle memory a little bit. The keys are RGB backlit, but they're not individual addressable, or at least they weren't on the current BIOS version that I had. But my contact at XMG told me that there will be an update for that, as well as for the function keys, which also didn't work as intended. But also, speaking of expectations or getting things to work properly, don't expect these to be the brightest keys ever, because if you were to put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for RGBness or rainbow grade bar, I would put it at a 5 at best. Still, RGB is a good thing to have at night, and you can obviously also turn them off if you don't want it or don't need it. Speaking of things that you might not need, perhaps that is going to be the touchpad, which you can also turn off if you're going to double tap on the top left corner. And speaking of the trackpad, I want to point out that this one is off-centered, and that kind of turned me off, if that makes sense. And I would have preferred it to have it more centered and a little bit bigger, like you can see on some other devices from Razer and Apple. But all in all, I would like to say that you are still getting Microsoft Precision drivers, which is fine, but and a glass cover, so that's another thing worth pointing out. But also don't expect it to be just as good as it can be on some Lenovo laptops. Now, the saving grace right here is obviously that if you're going to be doing just the extremely basic things, this touchpad is going to be fine. I've also retested the keyboard for keyboard flex, and this time around I did it on a desk, and I have noticed that in my early sample the keyboard did flex a little bit, but you won't be noticing it in day-to-day use. So unless you're going to be someone who's going to be putting his entire weight on the keyboard when typing, I don't think that you're going to have any issues. Another thing to point out is that XMG told me that these things will be fixed on the mass production variants a week before getting this unit, and they also mentioned that the fans might not be up to par, but we're going to get into that discussion a little bit later. The screen was also a bit wobbly when opening it with one hand, something that I'm not particularly a fan of, but nothing to be really worried about, and the hinge mechanism seems to be doing fine. I should also probably point out that I believe that unless you're going to be constantly flipping your laptop around, you won't have any issues with it. The hinge mechanism is definitely better than you can see on some other laptops that a few friends of mine had at university, and trust me, these ones really broke really badly, and I'm going to have some pictures of the mechanisms that I'm referring to. The THX certified speakers get relatively loud in a smaller room like mine, but I would much rather use my headphones for the best quality. Still, given that you are going to get an EQ tool with this laptop, I'm really happy to see that on here. You might be able to make some adjustments to make it sound just a little bit better. Either way, here's a song for you to tell if you're going to enjoy it or not. And since we're on the topic of sound, let's also talk about fan noise. And do note that I currently don't have all of the necessary tools to professionally test this, but I will get there at some point. And right now you're still going to be able to get an idea of what you can expect. And whilst the fans were turned off and the laptop was running, ambient noise was about 25 decibels in my room. And when the laptop is in idle, with the default settings, the app reported an average of 26 decibels. With the fans at 50%, the app reported an average of 32 decibels, and in gaming, the results are obviously going to vary depending on whether you're going to have fan boost turned on or off, and if you're going to be playing with whisper mode also turned on or off. But I can tell you that with whisper mode off and fan boost turned off, you might be able to get about 38.5 decibels on average, whereas with fan boost turned on, you might see it anywhere between 40.5 and 41 decibels. I would say that the fans become clearly audible past the 50% mark, but are only going to be annoying once you're going to cross that 90% threshold. And still, with a good pair of headphones, you probably won't notice it. And now that you know how loud this laptop can get, is it even worth running with fan boost turned on? Well, in my opinion, I would say yes. You'll always be able to squeeze that extra bit of performance, which is really what I aimed for right here. But I will have to tell you that you're going to have to be prepared for some toasty temperatures whenever you're going to be throwing heavy workloads at it whilst running the CPU at 80 watts and the GPU at 115 or 130. And I won't be going into specifics here since I intend to do a bigger deep dive whenever we're going to be doing the final review. But do note that if you're going to be throwing everything at it, so say IDA 64, Apex Legends, or rendering at 100% all of the time, things are going to get a little bit toasty. Luckily for most of you, that is not going to be a concern, and I can also tell you that the keyboard felt rather cool to the touch, exceptions being the top part where you have the power button and the profile switcher and the midsection of this laptop. And I hope that you guys will not be shouting in the comments telling me that these temperatures are very high, because I'm going to be telling you more about it in my final review. And now onto storage. And given that I had only a 500GB SSD, I wasn't really able to put a ton of games on it. So right now you're only going to be able to get a sneak peek at CSGO and Cyberpunk, and you're going to see how both of these games ran with the settings that I tested it at. I'll also be sharing more results from over 20 games in my final review, so definitely stay tuned for that, and trust me, that one is going to come out sooner than you think. I'd also like to point out that the SSD inside of this laptop is a Samsung 970 EVO Plus, so you can expect a solid performance and some speedy write and read speeds as shown in Crystal Diskmark. Another thing that I really enjoyed using was Control Center, because in there you can tweak both the CPU and the GPU and give them as much or as little power as you wish to balance things out. And you can also play with a fan card or just blast everything right off the gate with fan boost activated. I personally tested all of the games with everything maxed out and fan boost turned on, and this is obviously going to be the best way to experience the games, albeit with some spicier temperatures. And note that I didn't test the games with the iGPU enabled. I decided to disable that one, and if you want more information about it, then I'm going to have a video about it in the video description. And the way you can deactivate it is either by going into the control center or going directly into the BIOS. I personally preferred going with the latter option. And I want to say that I was really impressed with how everything felt on the screen. Like, everything was really smooth. And as I mentioned, this is a 144 Hz panel, and the refresh rate in a monitor that is half the size of my 34-inch that I'm using behind me made it feel like a breeze. However, if you're someone who's more into content creation with the risk of sounding like a totally broken record, don't expect this to compete with laptops that are catered specifically towards that demographic, but it will surely be something that will get you by. And by the way, I have edited some of my videos that I posted on YouTube on this laptop, and you guys seemed to like it. And overall, after a short time with this laptop, from doing everything from the basic tasks to gaming and video editing, like I said, I can tell you guys that I have enjoyed this laptop, and I can't really wait to test all of those games and give you my final review of this laptop. So definitely stay tuned for that. And if you happen to have any other questions or further suggestions for videos that I should be making with this laptop, then definitely write me a comment, and I will try to get that done by the time I have to send this laptop back to XMG. And in the meantime, if you would like to watch some other videos on my channel, I'm going to have some suggestions right here. And that is going to be it for the video. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.